Good afternoon. I'm Berak Hussain, the International Student Counsellor at Carleton's Health and Counseling Services. Welcome to the first of our series of the Mindfulness Stress Release, where we will be talking about everything stress related. In our part of our series today, we'll be taking a look at how to manage stress and how to take care of our stress, understanding what stress is all about. And so this three-part series will be taking a look next at burnout, and also near the end of the semester, taking a look at how to take care of your stress and preparing for exams right before the exam period. So let's jump right in today into our PowerPoints right here. I'm going to bring them right up, and we're going to begin by taking a look at what it is that we'll be talking about in our topic today. So there we are. This time of year, most people, especially students, tend to feel like they're frazzled with all the responsibilities of grades, homework, midterms, family pressures, relationships, everything related to that. So today we're going to take a look at how to manage all of these everyday normal life stressors that, if we don't take care of properly, they will eventually cause burnout. So we want to make sure we don't get to that point. So what we're going to cover is taking a look at what stress actually is. I'll keep the screen big like that. In terms of what stress actually is, we'll take a look at the signs and symptoms of stress. We'll be looking at the 5-step guide to managing stress, stress proofing yourself, and tips for making these changes. So this is going to be an interactive session. It's not going to be just myself speaking. I'd love to hear your feedback as well as we jump right into things. So when you hear the word stress, what comes to your mind? What is the first thing that comes to your mind? For those of you who are watching on Facebook and YouTube, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word stress? Well, when I hear the word stress, right away my heart starts racing. I start probably getting a little bit of shakes, and I start to feel very tight in the chest area, probably hard of breathing a little bit. And this is something that is pretty common, that a lot of people could experience, right? So these are normal responses to stress. And essentially, what stress is, it's the body's physical response to a perceived demand or threat. And when we take a look at it in a little bit more detail, somebody mentioned here worry. Absolutely. When we take a look at what stress could mean, it could mean that you are also very worried about it as well, right? So if we go a little bit further here in terms of understanding what stress is all about, take a look at how the body responds to stress, right? It's the fight or flight response. It's the release of the cortisol and the stress hormones in our body that make us feel very uncomfortable like that, right? So together, these hormones, they have several important physiological effects, including increasing of the heart rate, which is why you feel that when you're getting stressed, right? The breathing changes, right? The muscle tension also increases, the blood pressure increases, and also the secretion of insulin to liberate energy and increase the blood flow to the brain, the lungs, and the heart and muscles. So adrenaline and cortisol, they also have an effect of decreasing blood flow to the digestive tract, which is why in that moment of fight or flight, you are not really thinking about food, right? You're thinking about running away or protecting yourself. And during that chronic stress, what happens is that immune function actually decreases, which is why we feel more vulnerable to infection in the body during that time. In terms of stress and its long term exposure towards our bodies, what happens here, it could link to many different diseases and illnesses and conditions. So, anything from heart disease, hypertension, it could be headaches, back problems, diabetes. It could lead to potential cancer, dermatological disorders, very much so mental health challenges, child and spousal abuse, suicidality. It could lead also to alcohol, drug use as well. Tobacco use could be impacting our behavior as well, right? And it could also impact our sleep. These are amongst some of the things. If we continuously have that exposure to the stress hormones in our bodies, then it could lead potentially to this, right? it's really important to understand how our bodies respond that way, so that way we can deal and cope with it in a healthy way, right? Now, continuing on with what stress is all about, it's really important to understand what the signs are of stress, because often wise what happens is that they go unnoticed. We don't pay attention to them. We just say forget it or just ignore it because we're so busy with schoolwork, we're so busy worrying about other things, we're so busy about taking care of what we need to in terms of our schoolwork and other things around us, that we don't pay attention to these signs. So, for example, chest pain could potentially be a sign of stress, but it could also be a serious sign potentially of heart problems. So, it's really important not to ignore when you are feeling these, to pay attention to these signals and these signs that your body's sending you, just like you would if you got a notification from your phone, because your brain is sending you a signal, right? So we don't want to ignore that. Before we get into more in terms of what the signs and symptoms and so on and so forth, let's take a look at what are the sources of stress around us that could happen, right? So it's really important to recognize our physical environment and how that physical environment can impact you in terms of the bright lights, in terms of noise, in terms of heat, in terms of traffic, especially in the winter, right? So it's really important to recognize that these factors around you could really impact you, especially if it's extreme heat or extreme cold, right? Social relationships. So, for example, rudeness or aggression from others, conflicts from family, friends, and neighbors, not spending time with important people, even a lack of social support and loneliness, that can also be a source of stress. Financial, this goes without saying, right? There's taxes, there's bills, there's unplanned expenses sometimes. Sometimes it's just a matter of making ends meet. So it's really important to recognize that this is this is something that can really impact you when there are financial struggles. Organizational could be also looking at red tape, right? That's a lot of fun, right? When you have to deal with red tape and so on and so forth. Regulations and rules and deadlines, especially as a student, right? Work, school culture, that can also have an impact on you. Life events, it could be happy or sad, such as a wedding or a death, perhaps. Loss of a job, moving, illness, starting university could be exciting, right? But it can also be very challenging. A work promotion, as amazing as that is, the challenges involved with a new job could also impact you. Birth of a child, a joyous occasion, but it also brings its own levels of stress, like we said. A marriage, even winning a lottery can also impact you, the stress involved there, right? Lifestyle choices when it comes to sleep, caffeine, substances, time management, nutrition, that can be a source of stress if it's not taken care of properly. Physiologically, we're talking here about poor health or physical illnesses. It could be pregnancies that's impacting your body, injuries, and so on and so forth. Just notice that we miss the S on stress here. We're not going to let that stress us out, no pun intended. Here, we're going to take a look at the signs and symptoms of stress, which are crucial here when we take care of understanding the signals that our bodies send us, right? So, like we said, just like our phones or computers send us notifications, our body sends us notifications that something is off, right? It could be anything from physical signs, could be chest pains, could be tension along this area here, stomach cramps, could be trembling, fatigue, weight gain, weight loss. Behavioral signs could range anything from, increased smoking or substance use, could be aggression, right? Changes in eating habits and so on and so forth. It could also be around nervousness, right? Fidgeting. Emotional signs could be anything from anxiety, anger, irritability, impatience, um, short temper, frustration, worry. These are all normal signs of emotional symptoms and signs that our body sends us. Mental could be difficulty concentrating, focus, right? Could be difficulties in remembering. It could be indecisiveness. A lot of people experience that as well. Your mind going blank, perhaps. Confusion. Your mind is racing, perhaps. Loss of a sense of humor. Also, bad dreams, and it can impact your relationships with people around you. So, these are some of the things that we're going to come back to in a little bit, but it's really important to understand and appreciate how much your body body sometimes sends you all of these notifications that you are not even aware of, right? It's really important to do that. I find when I'm getting all stressed out, I make sure I have a favorite drink here. I've got decaf because caffeine can make you go like this and shake, increase the heart rate. So always make sure I have decaf, enjoyable drinks that soothe and relax you, but minus the caffeine, which can cause a lot of damage. So when we take a look here continuing with demands when it comes to stress, it's really important to understand for a demand to be evaluated as stress that a person, okay, must perceive that the resources they have are significantly less than what they need, right? So there's that a dynamic here with the resources are less than their demands. And because it's less, that perception will then cause that stress. So for example, resources could be what as a student? Time, money, energy, right? Intelligence, right? Abilities, patience, support from others. So if the perception is that these resources are lacking, then you will experience potentially stress. For example, if you've prepared for an exam, right? But let's say you didn't have enough time, that resource of time is not meeting the demand of you needing to have all that content done, right? So demand can be also a source of stress when the perception is that you don't have enough resources to meet your demands. The ways that we think can also be huge contributors to stress. Negative thinking, right? Negative self talk, putting yourself down, saying things like, oh, you're such a loser or you're such an idiot, and lowering yourself like that. That kind of negative talk can go a long way in diminishing your sense of esteem and sense of self, of course. But it is also something that can be really just it's just heavy, right? Now imagine if you talk to somebody and you put them down and you make fun of them. When you do that, how does that feel for them? So imagine if you do that to yourself, right? It also impacts you that way as well. So discounting the positive and maximizing the positive, right? That's something that can also impact you. So not acknowledging and validating amazing things that you're doing, but really amplifying the negative things that are happening. And that can really impact your ways of thinking in terms of stressful thinking, overgeneralizing, pessimism, overanalyzing. These are things that we tend to do when we get stressed, which can really blow things up out of proportion, right? Self-criticism, self-blame, that can also be something really impactful in a negative way. Exaggerating, perfectionism. Now, for those of you who watched the self-esteem series, Developing Self-Esteem, we got into a lot of detail in terms of how these ways of thinking can diminish and contribute to our low self-esteem and impacting our confidence. So same thing here. It contributes to high sources of stress because we are not perfect. We strive towards perfection, but we are not perfect, right? So awfulizing, catastrophizing, these are also things that are really negative as well in terms of just blowing things out of proportion in our mind, which can then have a huge negative effect on the work that we're trying to accomplish, because that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself when we're catastrophizing, demanding, and awfulizing. And of course, rigid black and white thinking can have a really, really terrible impact on ourselves as well in terms of just increasing that stress. We want to be able to have that flexibility to move along, right? Next, after taking a somewhat of a short, in-depth look at how stress impacts us, the signs and symptoms of stress, let's take a look now at actually managing stress. Before we do that, I'm going to just take a sip of this. I made it and I didn't even try it yet. It's got cardamom in there, cinnamon, and nutmeg, and a bit of saffron, which are all amazing stress reducers, natural stress reducers. Tastes great, by the way. So step one, what we need to do is we want to be able to identify if we are actually stressed, right? When we are stressed, we said there's all sorts of signs and symptoms that our body sends us, right? And just like we have our own individual fingerprint that's unique to us, we have our own individual stress print that's unique to us. So what I'd like you to do, for those of you who have the stress booklet, those of you who don't, you can pop me an email or send me a message after this is done, and I will be more than happy to send it to you, either through email or through Facebook message. I'll pop the document over to you. And you can, if I have a moment here, I'll actually put the link on the screen and you can bring it up as well. Just give me a moment and I'll get that up for you. Of course, now that I'm looking for it, I can't find it. Let me just quickly try. So I want to put the link up, and then you can access that, and you can. Here it is. So I'll just put the link up, and you can just type that up and find this document here. Just give me a moment while I bring it on the screen. You can then just use this to go through the information that I'm sending you, and you can just tick off what you are looking at. So just one moment while I bring this back up on the screen here. What's really neat about this program is that we can actually type things, write things, and I will just put that quickly up here. Okay, so you see here across the screen here, if you could just look that up, if you go to carleton.ca/health and just write A to Z, then you'll see the stress booklet. So I'll just leave that here for you. And in that stress booklet, then you can go back and see this over here. So those of you who don't have the booklet, we can follow along here. What we want to do here is go through this list and select all of the signs that we notice and the symptoms that happen to us when we are feeling overwhelmed. So from the physical signs, the behavioral, the mental, and the emotional. I'm just going to put up the sound that we have here in the background for a few moments while you select that. So don't overthink here. Just check off a little bit here in terms of what you find happens to you when you're feeling stressed. Give me one more minute. All right. So let's take a look here and see what are some of your signs and symptoms of stress that you notice happen when you begin to start feeling that stress. I'll start off by saying I definitely feel stressed when I notice that I am, for example, almost feeling tingling in my arms and legs. When I haven't gone to the gym for a good amount of time, then I notice that tingling feeling and that sensation. I also noticed I lose my appetite. A lot of people tend to gain their appetite during stressful periods. I find it's quite the opposite. I actually lose my appetite. How about yourselves? What are some things that you notice that when you get stressed, you notice immediately goes away, or decrease or increase, or any of these things? Focus, attention, memory. That's also another one I find. Sleep is really challenging, I find. And even like a tightness in the chest, I find that also happens here as well. What are some of the things that you experienced when you were stressed? I'm just waiting for people to put in the comments. Usually when people get stressed, some common things occur. Like we said, it's there's especially students, I noticed, focus with schoolwork. They don't start doing well. They stop going to the gym. They stop interacting with their friends. These are some of the common things that I noticed that a lot of students experience when they are dealing with stress. How about you guys? What are some of the things that you notice when you get stressed? How about nightmares? So these are the common things that a lot of people experience, and especially when it comes to, let's say, performance in school, interactions, and appetite. These are the most common things that do occur indeed. So let's go on to the next part now. So number one, we said, was identifying if you're stressed, because a lot of people tend to think that they're going crazy, that there's something wrong with them, right? And so what we see here, that in fact, it's not that. The issue is that they are dealing with stress, right? Because stress can be an absolute crazy maker. So it's really important to know what your stress print is so that you can be proactive rather than reactive to the stressors that occur around you, right? I'm also going to include here a really great list called 50 Proven Stress Reducers. And I'm actually going to put that on the screen here so you see what it looks like. Just for one moment, I'm going to remove that and I'm going to put to, let me see here. So I'm going to share this screen, which is from the Carleton page in regards to, here we are, 50 proven stress reducers. And this is a wonderful resource that I find becomes really helpful when you are feeling, I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger here. So look at page one over here. So right here, there's some really great ideas that you can implement and put in your life. So for example, here, this is a very simple one. Get out of bed 15 minutes earlier to avoid the morning rush. Prepare for the morning, the evening before. This is a standard in my home, right? Getting clothes, breakfast, lunch, everything ready the night before. So in the morning, you just slip into your clothes, go down, grab your breakfast, and go out the door ready to go, right? Because when you don't have things prepared and you're madly rushing to grab them, and then you're setting the mode and the energy and the mood for the day, right? That stressed out feeling. When you have everything prepared and you just go, then it makes things a lot easier. Writing things down is also something that helps. Keeping a duplicate car key, that's also helpful. Preventative maintenance, right? And your car, your appliances, also you want to do that for yourself as well. Adding an ounce of love to everything that you do, right? Eating healthy foods. Making friends with non-worriers. That is a really good one. Relaxing your standards. The world won't end if the grass isn't mowed till this weekend, for example, right? Plan ahead instead of worrying ahead. Don't let the gas tank get below that 1/4 full. Always get things ahead of time before you need them, right? That 30-minute walk helps get rid of stress, most of our stress. Saying no thank you to projects that you just don't have the energy or time for, right? Carrying reading material enjoyable while waiting. For every one thing that goes wrong, there are 50 to positive aspects. So always want to reframe and look at that. Do nothing which leads you to tell a lie, because a lot of stress involved with that, right? Do at least one thing you really enjoy daily. Turn needs into preferences. And then our body's basic needs are what? Food, water, and keeping warm. Everything else is a preference. This is keeping things very simple, right? Don't put up with things that don't work right. Get things fixed or replace them. That reduces your stress as well. Remember that everyone around you is carrying some kind of burden. Trust me, you are not alone in your stress. Everybody has some kind of difficulty or stress that we're all struggling with. It's a really good one that practices mindfulness ego in terms of when someone cuts you off in traffic, stop suddenly, Think of all the driving mistakes you've made instead of getting mad and upset, right? Our habitual style of ego is to instantly respond. This gives you the opportunity to put your foot off the pedal, take a few moments, breathe, and then reflect on that concept, right? Journal writing is really great because it takes the stress out of your head and putting it down, doing one things at a time, which I think is almost near impossible for some people who are multitaskers, but that can also reduce some stress. Thinking, but also before you speaking, before saying anything, ask yourself if you what you are about to say is true, is it kind, is it necessary? If it's not any of these things, don't say it. Some really good stuff here. Some more ideas here. Don't sweat the small stuff. Unplug your phone or switch on your answering machine. When you're doing something important, laugh, right? Smile, fake it till you make it kind of thing. Remember, the best things in life aren't things, right? Buying things and clothes that are comfortable and expensive and things that match rather than just things that you get for one season and that's it, right? Count to 100 before saying anything that could make matters worse. So these are some really, really great strategies that you can, I'm just going to remove it here. Yeah. So that you can implement. And let me just put the link for it here so that you can also use it and check it out whenever you want. So I'll just put that up here. Give me a moment. I'm really enjoying the sound here in the background. Do you hear it as well? So let me just add this here. Thank you for sharing. So some people were sharing here as I was talking about the 50 proven stress reducers that you also experience the heart rate going up and the anxiety. Absolutely. And like we said, those are common things that happen when you are dealing with the stressors. So it's really important that you understand how your body responds to stress so that you can respond to it and be preventative. So there's the link for the 50 proven stress reducers. You can access that there as well. So let's go on now to the next part of our presentation, looking at step 2. Step 1, we said, is learning to identify if you are stressed. Step 2 takes a look at identifying what the actual stressors are, right? So this is understanding what the cause is, looking at the stress was related to the change, right? Looking at the changes in your life and when it happened, that could be a really good way to start to look at what is the stressor that's causing me to feel this way. So you can narrow it down, for example, by looking at when the symptoms started, when you started having challenges and problems. Perhaps it was 2 weeks ago when your sleep changed, right? So you go back to 2 weeks ago and look around what happened. What happened around that time? Your close friends and family members who know you really well and good friends and family, you can also take a look at, their insights in terms of what has been causing you that stress as well. Ask them for their opinion if you can't seem to pinpoint. So number 2 is really important, taking a look at and understanding what are the actual stressors, right? So number 1, again, was what? Identifying if you are stressed. Number 2, identifying what the actual stressors are. Number 3 takes a look identifying the reason for the stress. Okay, so this is a bit challenging because it gets you to do a little bit of introspection, right? A really good question to ask yourself is, how is this event or situation threatening or demanding to me? All right. Many times when we take a look at this question, it's the event or the situation that we're dealing with doesn't coincide with your beliefs or your values or your expectations. So there's this clash. For example, if honesty is very important to you and you are being lied to, that disparity right there, that conflict, right, of lying and truth and honesty then becomes the root of your issue of the stress, right? So that's really important to understand as well, the root cause of what is the reason that's causing you the stress, right? So again, reflecting and looking at what is the root cause of my stress. That can go a long way in getting rid of that stress that you're experiencing, right? So number 1, what did we say number 1 was? Number 1 was identifying if you're stressed through your stress print. Number 2, looking at what the causes were. And number three, like identifying rather number two, what the stressor is. Number three is identifying the reason. And number four, selecting a strategy and applying it. It has to be an appropriate strategy. And there are three levels to that. Level one, if there's something you can do about it, do it right away. And we've already looked at it, right? 50 proven stress reducers that we can look into our life to eliminate immediate stress in our lives. Of course, there are other strategies that are more longer term, but this is something you can do. We've already gone over that. So level two has to do with managing the signs and the symptoms of stress. At the end of our session today, we're going to be combining some of these for a beautiful mindfulness, breathing, progressive relaxation, visualization, meditation. We're going to combine the first four of these strategies into managing our stress and lowering our stress through the exercise. So here, breathing has to do with taking in breath very slowly through your nose, counting up to 4, holding your breath and releasing out through your mouth, almost like you're deflating a balloon. So you want to inflate your lungs like balloons, hold your breath, counting to 7, and then exhaling out as though you were deflating a balloon. What breathing does, it slows down the heart rate, gets oxygen where it needs to go in your body. And that's why a lot of people, when we do this exercise, tell me that they feel oxygenated. And that's exactly what's going on here. So you're getting oxygen where it needs to go to the rest of your body, right? Slows down the heart, especially when you have high anxiety. This is a wonderful technique, which can also help prevent potential panic attacks, right? The idea with these signs and symptoms, how we manage them, is that not at the moment it's happening that we apply these strategies for the first time. We want to be able to do them regularly ahead of time, right? You want to do them when you are calm, when you are in a good place, so your body gets used to you connecting memory to the activity that you're doing, a positive activity, and you feel good after when you have nice relaxation music, perhaps some scented candles, some kind of aromatherapy. That has a huge impact on mind, heart, body, and soul. And when you combine it with these strategies here, it can be very, very impactful indeed. So breathing in low lights and doing the slow, deep breathing, you can do it anywhere. You can do it standing on the bus, you can do it sitting down waiting, you can do it in class, you can do it anywhere. Just stop and breathe very slowly. It is incredibly powerful. Then there is the progressive relaxation, which has to do with muscle tension relaxation, starting from the head or from your toes, going up or down. What we want to do is mindfully be aware of each of our muscle sections of our body as we tense and release. And you notice, try this with me. When you tense up and then just release like this a little bit, that release of the tension here in the muscles in the hands is a proven indication to you that if you do this over time, you're going to feel it again and again and more, because just that relaxation right there gets the blood flowing, and just you can lay down while you're doing it or on the couch or wherever you are. It's a very powerful strategy. Meditation involves focusing your mind on a thought, a vision, or anything, and just focusing and relaxing your body. Could be laying down, you could be sitting. There's all sorts of mindfulness meditations out there that you can find that on YouTube, or even just having somebody read to you. In the booklet that I posted earlier, that if you want, you can ask me to send to you, it describes step by step how to do that as well. Visualization has to do with imagery, right? So visualizing yourself in a happy place, perhaps, or floating upon a cloud. And these are really great strategies to do. And like I said, at the end, we'll be combining all four to benefiting the full effects of them. Then there is getting a massage, right? The power of touch these days is much missed, especially during the pandemic. The idea of touch, especially to the tense muscles, can go a long way in relieving the tension that we have in different parts of our body, especially this area here where we tend to feel the tension, right? And it could be in the arms, it could be in the legs. And, if you can find a Groupon, if you don't have a insurance coverage to get a prescription, you can absolutely find all sorts of massages out there. And the massages parlors are working these days, especially during the stress. Now, the idea of touch here also, when you hold somebody for 20 seconds, what happens is there's a hormone in our body called oxytocin, also known as the love hormone, which is released into our system. And when it is released, what happens here? you feel happy, right? So next time you meet somebody and if you are hugging them, hold on for 20 seconds and count for it. And what happens here? Oxytocin. We want that oxytocin feel good hormone coming out there. Touch is very powerful. Exercise should have been right at the top of the list. It is in fact our number one stress reducer. What happens when you exercise is all those cortisol and stress hormones that are built up in your body, they are released. They are gone because endorphins and happy hormones are released into your system, the adrenaline, which is why you feel so great after you go for a run, perhaps, or go to the gym, swim, dance, any kind of physical activity where it gets the heart pumping to release those stress hormones out of your system and release into your system the adrenaline and happy hormones. Please try and find time. And I know that's the first thing to go when students are so busy, when all of us are busy, not just students. And that can be our biggest fall because then what are we going to do with all these stress hormones? So we've got to find other techniques as well. Even if it's a 5-10 minute walk. I have been walking now for months, ever since I've been traveling and coming back. I've been used to walking at least 15 to 20,000 steps a day. Coming back and sitting in front of a computer all day, it's been really challenging. So I've made sure, for example, every lunch hour, I go for at least 20 to 30, if not 50 minutes. Love that walking, especially when the weather's nice. Even if it's a bit chilly, that's okay. You layer up, right? Especially those of you in Canada, just layer up and we can go for that walk. Even if it's raining, even if it's snowing. Of course, some extreme weather, we don't want to do that, whether it's hot or cold. However, layering up and going for that brisk walk gets the heart pumping, getting rid of the stress hormones. See what you can do into adding that into your schedule to help get rid of those stress hormones. Humor, a hot bath, jacuzzi, a hot tub or sauna if you have access to a gym, or even a bathtub. Honestly, you can create your own atmosphere with sounds like we have here with beautiful candlelight, as well as aromatherapy. It could be just 5 minutes sitting in the bathtub. That can go a long way. Finding a healthy hobby, right? So this is a really great way of distracting yourself in a healthy way when it comes to stress, or again, taking a lovely sip of this cardamom, saffron, cinnamon, nutmeg drink. Can't resist. It's so calming and delicious. Decaf, of course. Herbal teas are great for that too, right? So long-term strategies have to do with learning how to be a positive thinker. And this is perhaps something useful to talk to your therapist about, right? Um, Looking at how to be a positive thinker when you've used to being so negative all the time, the negative thought patterns, right? Thinking about things in a positive way, learning how to end negative talk. I'm actually going to put up, as we're speaking right now, the stress booklet, because it actually goes to quite a bit of detail with some of these. So just give me a moment while I add this here, because I find it really, really helpful. Just one moment. I'm going to put that on the screen here. And we can go through some of these as well here. So this is the booklet here that I showed the link earlier. I'm just going to make it bigger so you can see it fully. Here we go. And so everything that we've discussed is in this booklet here. And I want to focus on taking a look at these here. And practicing positive language. So I'm just going to make it want to be able to see it. So we'll keep it like that. So what we see here is learning to negate negative language, so to speak. Instead of saying things such as, I don't feel like eating chicken tonight, you have every right to say that. Instead of saying, I don't feel like, which is negative language, what you could do instead is say, I would prefer to have fill in the blank, right? Instead of saying, for example, that movie was terrible, I hated it, right? Perhaps positive language replacement could be something along the lines of, the costumes and the cinematography were great. The story could have been better developed. For example, you see how you're still criticizing, so to speak, you're giving feedback, but you're not using negative language. This is pretty common. We always say names against people. He's such an idiot. Perhaps saying something like, that guy would be more pleasant, for example, if he was less angry or had better social skills or didn't insult people. So you see how you can replace that. And that's really powerful in terms of practicing positive language every day. Looking at avoiding being influenced by others. That is a really big one, right? because we can be really influenced through social media, right? And it's really important to understand not to let the negativity of the people around us impact us, right? It could be our friends, it could be social media, it could be family, especially when there's negativity there. One of my favorite strategies is taking a look at disputing irrational beliefs, right? And for example, we have a lot, if you look here at the bottom here, a lot of stress producing irrational beliefs, such as I'm worthless, nobody cares about anybody else, there's only one way to do things, it must be perfect. You have to have a lot of money to be happy, right? Asking for help is a sign of weakness. I have to be in control. You see, these types of stress producing irrational beliefs puts a lot of pressure on you, wouldn't you say, that kind of negative self-talk? So what we want to do is challenge ourselves, right? When it comes to these irrational beliefs, you want to challenge it, and it's a technique that's funneling down things, looking at the root cause. What's the evidence of this belief, right? And so it keeps us, these types of thoughts keep us from growing emotionally, right? And it takes us out of sync with reality, right? And it could be ingrained into us. So those of you who followed the self-esteem uh, the workshop series, rather, we got into quite a bit of detail in terms of looking at how to change negative thought patterns with nevertheless. So the same thing here. So we want to change our negative irrational beliefs, right? And this is rooted in terms of cognitive behavioral therapy. So this is a strategy we use in cognitive behavioral therapy to reframe and challenge irrational thoughts, right? So by changing our thoughts, then our feelings and behaviors are also changed, which is the root base of when we talk about CBT, right? So with respect to stress management, the first step, what we really want to do here is identify the belief that's associated with the stress. So for example, you just got a B on your final paper, right? And you believe that it's not a good mark and you'll never get into, let's say, law school because you're not smart enough. So you see how that irrational beliefs just exponentially blew up, right? You've always wanted to go to law school. Now you can't because of this. So the next step then is to ask yourself this question. What is the evidence of this belief? What is the evidence of this belief? We know that law school is competitive and that good marks are very important. Therefore, it's reasonable to think that smart people would get into law school, right? So then you could ask yourself this question. Is there any falseness to this belief? If so, what? Do you know for sure that people who get a B on a paper have never been to law school? No. Is it realistic for you to believe that you're not smart enough? No, of course not. You've done well in your courses, right? Smart people tend to do well in their courses. So it'd be logical for you to believe that you were also smart. Just because you get one low mark, a C, a D, does not indicate your worth or value, right? And we tend to connect our value and our worth to these things, these external factors, which then precipitate all these anxious, provoking, rational beliefs. So after looking critically at both sides of the situation, what we want to do is ask ourselves how each perspective is impacting you, right? Believing that you're not smart and won't get into law school, that's going to lead to negative emotions and feelings that are associated with stress. And it becomes this continuous negative loop, right? And it's hard to get out of. So having a more balanced assessment of the situation then would ease those negative feelings. And it would also lead to a more effective outcome. You would tend to feel better about yourself, right? And not likely be stressed about things in the future, your next paper, your next assignment, et cetera, et cetera. One of my favorites here is seeing problems as opportunities. Okay. And whenever I do anything related to reframing, I use my hand like this. So you take your hand, you go ahead, take your hand with me like this. Okay. And you're going to pretend it's a problem that's coming to you. All right. So problem's going to hit you. Then you're going to reframe it to an opportunity. Problem, reframe, opportunity. This reframe is a life changer because if you take problems and make them opportunities, right? Then you'll start asking questions such as, what can I learn from this process? How will I be better off after the situation, right? If we look at problems as an opportunity, it's a great way to change your perception of the situation to a more positive and reasonable approach. This way, you can benefit from perhaps building your confidence a little bit more, right? Working on your sense of self esteem, learning to set priorities, acquiring knowledge or practical skills, setting boundaries, opening horizons, meeting new people, developing more skills, helping people. So, opportunities come from problems. All right. Relabeling emotions is also a very important one. Instead of painting, painting the brush with everything. I'm upset and I'm angry at everything. And so we want to look at the root. Perhaps it was more of a frustration, right? Labeling something appropriately can also reduce the amount of stress instead of it, for example, instead of rage, okay, and feelings of worthlessness, we can say perhaps annoyance or concern, right? Instead of saying, I'm worried, I'm worried, I'm worried, say, I'm concerned, right? That's lighter. So intense guilt and regret, perhaps with shame and irritation, changing that anxiety with concern, right? So try relabeling your emotional response so that way you can deal with the situation better. Another way of disputing irrational belief through the linguistic approach you see on the side here is taking a look at replacing instead of I should have, I must, I have to with I want to, I choose. I love this one. Instead of saying I have to, I should, I want, that's taking control back. I choose, right? Instead of saying one, we, you, they, I, taking control back. I. This is another good one here. Instead of can't and won't, say I can. I can, but I choose not to. This is a great one. I cannot, I won't. You see, right away, I can't. You're setting a limitation on yourself and a boundary. Whereas you can say, I can, however, I choose not to. This is a great one that we tend to do right? Exaggerate. This is where we take that paintbrush and paint everything this way. Instead of labeling everything as every and all and always, we say sometimes, some, many, most, right? This type of language is very powerful. Instead of saying, let me, right? So you're giving control to somebody. You say, I would like to. You're taking control back. You make me feel. Instead of saying, you make me feel, you say, when you do ABC, I allow myself to feel. So this linguistic approach to disputing irrational beliefs is very, very powerful. Time management is also very important, right? Those of you who are Carleton students, you can access the learning support services on the fourth floor of the library. You can sit with a study skills specialist virtually or in person, and they can show you how to manage your time, study skills, and motivate yourself with your studies, so on and so forth. Negotiation with your environment and people around you, problem solving, communication. That is a big one, right? A lot of stressful situations arise from our interactions with other people through miscommunications. Effective communication, of course, requires practice and patience. Good communication is clear, it's brief to the point. It's also verbal and nonverbal, right? 90% of communication is the nonverbal. Our body language is huge, it gives off messages, right? 70% according to the research and experts. So it's really important to understand how you say something as well is really important, the nonverbal, right? So here's a few tips. So using a volume of speech appropriate to the circumstances, not too loud or too soft. Use a lively intonation of voice. I'm very conscious when I speak, especially presentations, because sometimes information can be boring. So it's really important to understand how you use your intonation. Speak clearly and fluently without the ahs and the ums. That exhibits confidence, right? Use appropriate facial expressions. I'm sure you've noticed I've done quite a few already. Avoid unnecessary smiles, grimaces, lip biting, so on and so forth. Keeping your body relaxed, relaxed posture, appropriate hand gestures, which I also use, maintaining eye contact, not staring or looking away too much. And I understand sometimes in different cultures, it's a sign of respect to look away, especially perhaps between the genders, right? So it's really important to be cognizant of where you are and who you're speaking with, right? So some follow-up tips for effective communication, you know, usually starting off by saying no if you want to refuse a request, can also set the boundaries. Um, when these are more assertive styles of communication, because sometimes people, see, I just said right now, but sometimes people could be hesitant in the way they speak and it comes off as insecure. So these are strategies on how to be more assertive. So starting off by saying no, responding quickly without hesitation shows you know what you want. Be polite but firm, using a firm voice like this. Avoid apologizing and non-explanations. You don't need to explain yourself. Using I instead of it, so being active. I'm not able to do that at the moment, rather than it's really busy right now. So you're being assertive, right? Being direct to the point, anticipate feelings in close relationships, and acknowledge other people's feelings. Things to avoid when it comes to Roblox communication. Perhaps next time I can do a whole session on communication, but just quickly here, the way we speak with people, right? You have to. This is ordering and commanding, and it doesn't command respect at all. Warning or threatening could be if you don't, or you better, moralizing or preaching. You should, you ought to. It's your responsibility, advising. And so all of this type of language could put up roadblocks when you connect or trying to connect with somebody, right? Name calling, analyzing, diverting, sarcasm, judging, persuading with logic and arguing, right? These are all things that can also impact you that way. So if we take a look back at our presentation that we had, I just wanted to share a few details of some of these because they're really quite valuable. If we look back here, the long-term strategies, we took quite a bit of time taking a look at some of these here. And finally, if you're finding yourself still struggling, talk things out with a friend or somebody that you trust. Absolutely. Now, what was step one again? You remember step one is identifying if you're stressed. Step two, identifying what the stressors are. Step three, identifying the reasons for the stress. Step four, selecting appropriate strategies and applying it. There are 3 levels. Level one, if you can do something right away, do it. Level two, managing the signs and symptoms to lower physiologically, mentally, behaviorally, emotionally the signs of stress, and long term strategies helping us from changing the way that we communicate, changing the way that we practice our language, and how we relabel emotions, and so on and so forth. So, finally, here, we take a look at how to develop ourselves. So evaluating ourselves, excuse me, evaluating ourselves, step 5 means in about a week or 2 of honestly trying some of these strategies, okay? Then we're going to evaluate and monitor and taking a look at what worked, what didn't, right? Asking yourself the question, am I still stressed? Because what happens is research shows that it takes around 21 days, some say 40 days, to develop a good or bad habit from a routine, right? So if you're consistently eating well, you're consistently sleeping well, and you're exercising and you're getting rid of toxic people around you, so on and so forth, and you're practicing this regularly, you will notice a huge change in yourself. So you're still stressed, then if you're not, rather, pat yourself on the back. You've done a good job of working things out for you. If not, that's okay, because sometimes it doesn't work the first time. Or maybe there are things here that don't work, right? Go through the steps again to accurately identify what your stressors are, what worked and what didn't. All right. You can also take a look at stress proofing yourself. And these are some of the basic things that we mentioned already. Making sure you're eating well, sleeping well, exercising, right? Eliminating substances into your body that also cause a lot of negative impact. Definitely not decaf. Establishing and maintaining healthy relationships is vital, right? Getting rid of toxic people around you as much as possible. Sometimes you have friends that you live, or family and friends that you live with, or coworkers that are toxic and you can't get rid of. So it's really learning about setting up that boundary where people say something, you let it hit and bounce off rather than go inside, right? Keeping a positive attitude, right? Building skills, being creative, having healthy hobbies. These are all great ways of stress proofing yourself. So, how can we make these changes? Make them slowly. Build. Once you take the small things, and just like we did with self-esteem building, take some things that you can implement at a slow pace, right? Something that's not a huge change, but will have lasting effects. So make them very slowly as well. Start with this easier things, because what happens is you build your confidence and then you look forward to taking on more challenging changes, right? Setbacks, that's a normal thing that happens, right? What can we get from setbacks? We learn from them. What went wrong? What can we change? What can we improve? And that will make things a lot easier for you when you have that wonderful, open, loving attitude towards yourself of, you know what? I'm going to learn and grow from this. I'm not going to let me just drag me down. I'm going to take what I can from this and make it better the next time. Finding out how others have done it. That is a really big one as well, right? Not to compare, but perhaps saving yourself a lot of time. Like, how do you make, a whole meal plan for a whole week and you prepare it in one day or half a day? How do you do that? Things like that, right? So you can learn from other people applying what they have learned. Again, don't compare yourself, right? But learn to see what works what has worked for them, that could potentially, like I said, work for you, because not everything that they do will work for you. Finally, we've taken a look at the basics in terms of everything you need to know about how to get started to managing your stress. There's obviously more details in books and research out there on the internet. There's tons of videos out there to master your approach to stress management. The booklet that I've also shown you earlier, there's some really great details there for you to go through. And if you feel that your stress is still overwhelming you and you don't know where to begin, as a Carleton student, you have access to the health and counseling services. Please don't hesitate to contact us. And to do that, so just to show you here, so this is where we got the resources for this presentation today. I'd like to acknowledge all of these resources that we used here, and these are stress resources that you can also access on the internet. And for Carleton students, if you want to book an appointment, absolutely what you can do here is just come to the health and counseling services by calling or coming in person. International students, if you need to speak with somebody, you can also come to me directly, or you can contact the ISSO and ask to speak with me. They will connect you with me. So thank you very much for those of you who listened in today. We are now going to be doing our mindfulness meditation. Just give me a moment to pull it up right here. And we're going to be taking a look at how to take care of our stress by using the 4 skills that we mentioned earlier. If you just give me a moment, I will put that up on the screen, and then we can listen to it at the same time while we speak. Watch us have a commercial now. Of course. So just give me a moment while I get rid of the commercial, and we'll put that up here on the screen while we look at the beautiful scenery along with, let me just see here. I always like to change things up, not have the exact same thing over and over again, because sometimes it gets really boring hearing the same thing. So while we get this up on the screen here, I'm not really feeling it. I'm not really feeling this one. It's not bad, but I'm not really feeling it. Let's see if I can find another one. Sometimes you find something that you like and other times no. I'm just not feeling this one. I can be real about that. So let me find something else, another one that I like. Ooh, that one's a nice one. There we go. That's the original one we had earlier. Sometimes, it's just good to stick to what you know already. All right. Oh, that's lovely. So let's listen to this one. I'm going to bring it up on the screen. The views are also gorgeous. I don't see it here on the screen. I'm seeing it and hearing it here, but not up on the screen there. There we are. There we go. Just want to make sure you can hear it clearly. You can hear the sound clearly. All right. I'm going to start here. I'm just going to lower the sound a tiny bit here. For those of you who are listening, if you can just confirm with me that the sound is clear and it's good. And if you can just confirm with me that. So I'm going to start. Excellent. Thank you for sharing the feedback. So we're going to start with this mindfulness meditation by taking a slow, deep breath. Breathing in through your nose. very slowly counting up to 4, and then breathing out after holding your breath through your mouth. So breathe in through your nose, holding your breath at 4, 7, 4, 7, holding your breath, and then releasing out through your mouth. Very slowly. I'd like you to put your feet on the floor if you're sitting down, or if you maybe like to lay back down. What you can do is start grounding yourself, grounding your feet, grounding your back if you're laying down. Just grounding your body. And we're going to start breathing very slowly. Breathe in through your nose, holding your breath, and exhaling out through your mouth. Breathe in, holding your breath, and then releasing out your breath. Now we're going to start from the bottom of our feet. Now, close your eyes if you'd like as well. Lighten the room wherever you are. Listen to the sound of my voice and what I'm saying as we go step by step through this mindfulness meditation by looking at breathing techniques, muscle relaxation techniques, visualization. So after grounding your feet and finding your rhythm in your breathing in and out very slowly, you are now going to start tensing up your toes, curling, tensing, and feeling the bottom of your feet or the back of your heel if you're laying down on the floor. And tensing your foot and releasing. Remember, continuing to breathe deeply, continuing also with the rhythm that you have found with your breathing. Continue the slow, deep breathing and grounding your feet. And as you breathe in all the goodness that we're breathing in here. And as you breathe out, exhale any negativity that you're feeling in your body, just exhale it out. As we move up now to our ankles, our shins, up to our knees, I'd like you to tense and release that energy. And as we continue up past our knees to our thighs, our quads, and the beauty of the muscles of our legs that hold us up, that make us walk, allow us to walk, hold us up, tensing and releasing all of the muscles in your legs, your thighs, all the way up to our lower body, the front, the back, tensing and releasing. Now, if there's any place in your legs that you're finding tension, spend a little bit of time there of just tensing and releasing, tensing and releasing. Going up to our lower body, our hips, our stomach, our lower back, behind our back, all the way to the front, our stomach, the muscles in the front, our rib cage, our shoulders, back, our necks, all this area here. Tense and release. Tense and release. Tensing and releasing all the way up to your neck. Tensing and releasing, especially how our neck holds up between our head and our body and everything else. So holding and releasing the tension of the muscles here as we go up. Our ears, our front, our jaws, those muscles that we use every single day so many times that we don't give the relaxation that it needs and deserves, because you absolutely deserve this. And going up top of our heads, back, behind our necks, tensing and releasing our jaws, eyes, ears. Don't forget your breathing. Breathe slowly and release. Any space now, any part of your body that feels a little bit tense, go back to that space. And give it a little bit more compassion and attention by tensing and releasing right in that spot. Give it a little bit of extra love from you and compassion and appreciation for what that muscle does for you. Tensing and releasing. Now, your whole body from head to toe is relaxed as you breathe in and out. As you breathe in, breathe in all of the goodness that you feel that you have been creating so far. And as you breathe in like we said, all of the positive energy and the goodness that we've created. Hold your breath again and release. And as you release the breath, release out all the negative toxins, all the negative thoughts, all the negative tension that's in your body. Release it out. Breathe in again, hold, and release out. Out. And you can visually with your hands push that thought away, that feeling away out of your system. Breathe in, hold your breath, and push out all the negativity. So keep breathing in and make sure that every single part of your body that we have given attention to is nice and relaxed, and you're now feeling calm and relaxed. Keep breathing in all of that beautiful, relaxed energy that you have now created in just a few moments of giving attention to the different parts of your body that needed the relaxation and the attention. Just to let go of any of the tension in your body. And now, relax from head to toe in your mind's eye. Imagine yourself in a favorite place of peace and serenity, a person, anything that gives you a calmness and joy. It just makes you feel no negativity. Go there in your mind with your eyes closed. Perhaps it's a sacred place, a faith, spirituality, beautiful nature scene, wherever your mind takes you with that calmness. Imagine yourself there right now. Take in all of the beautiful energy of that vision that you have in your mind. Imagine yourself floating and relax in that space. Imagine and feel how good you feel in this moment right now as you're imagining yourself where you are. Take that in. Take that in into your mind's eye. Take it in. Absorb what it sounds like, what it smells like, what it feels like, taste. Put all of your senses right into that space you are in right now, your vision, and take all the positivity from there. Hold it close to your heart, to your spirit, wherever you deem it close to yourself. Hold it close to you. And just know, whenever you are having moments where you're feeling not so good, you have the ability to take yourself to this space right now. And physically, emotionally, spiritually feel this beautiful calm that you are now feeling. Breathe in all the goodness we've created. And breathe out all the negativity. Only good feelings and vibes right now. Whenever you are ready, send all of these positive vibes down to your body all over. And envision all of this goodness, this bright light all over your body. And feeling good, calm, grounded. And whenever you come across any negativity again, practice this again and again until it becomes a norm for you. Because you have the ability, you deserve to feel this good. You have the ability to bring yourself to this place because you are deserving. You are a worthwhile human being who deserves love and compassion, and you can give that to yourself. Absolutely. Whenever you are ready, become aware of the sounds around you, the light in the room. Wiggle your toes and your fingers to get the feeling back. Notice the bottom of your feet. You can actually feel it. Slowly stretch a little bit. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Open up your eyes. And be aware of where you are right now. And know that you can come to this place and time anytime you want, anytime you desire, and anytime you need it. Now that you are familiar with creating that beautiful, positive energy for yourself, you can come to this space whenever you want using mindfulness meditation practices and techniques, which is what we did today with muscle tension, relaxation, visualization, as well as breathing. This overall meditative practice that you can do anytime you need to. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope this was beneficial and relaxing for you as it was for me. Don't forget to practice this often. Apply the strategies we spoke about to reduce overall stress in your life, and drink decaf. That could go a long way in reducing your overall stress and anxiety. Don't forget, you are worthy. You deserve it. Until next week, we're going to be wishing you well and peace. Join us again next Thursday at 2:30 again, right here. We'll be taking a look at burnout and how to prevent burnout. Thank you so much for joining us today. Take care and have a lovely week. Goodbye.